Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. We got about 5 topics for this video. The first one has to do with the German Defense Minister, Mr. Pistorius, who I think he doesn't work for Germany. I think he works for higher interest and bigger power. He comes and tells us that actually he conflates two different interests. Why? So he can put the German workers to maybe in a state of war with Russia. That's the first topic. The second topic, maybe you're familiar with the fact that the ICC court, International Criminal Court in The Hague, issued an arrest warrant in this case for Mr. Netanyahu and one for the former Defense Minister of Israel, Gallant. And we're going to find out how Mr. Borrell, who is the appointed foreign minister, let's put it, minister of the European Union, will lose his job. Why? Because he says that all European Union countries must comply with the ICC arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant. Therefore, he's got to go. We already have 2 countries in the European Union who said that. One said certainly they will not comply. That is Hungary, and the other one is Germany, obviously being a non-independent sovereign country. And I will tell you what's going to happen with Germany and the arrest warrants for Netanyahu. Next one, we have this imbecile called Senator Graham, Lindsey Graham, and he threatens allies with sanctions if they dare to arrest a foreign leader who was issued an arrest warrant by the International Court of Justice. So that is Netanyahu. So Graham tells the allies, France, UK, whomever in the European Union, if you arrest some other guy that the International Criminal Court that you are signatories of, you arrest that guy, we're going to impose sanctions on you. So this is a good parent, right? And they tell us that the European Union had to get rid of the Russian gas supplies, cheap Russian gas supplies, because Russia could blackmail the European Union. And I said, yeah, and now that can be blackmailed by the United States of America because they made the Europeans kick out the Russians and the Americans came to help. But they made these guys do it. Why? Through their patriotic elected officials in the countries that decided to sanction themselves. And we find out that at least Lindsey Graham is honest. I like, honest people in general. But if you have an asshole who's honest, I like that person better than an asshole who's dishonest. So in this case, we have this Lindsey Graham, the senator, and he tells us that we're gonna fight for Ukraine, not for its democracy and rights. No, Ukraine can make America rich, and tells us that the rare earth minerals Ukraine has could help not us, the US companies or international companies, to get rich. All right, well, who is this Graham working for? For America, you think? And I'm not doing this because I'm America, but nevertheless, I'm more America than he is, that's for sure. So what we have here, we have another article where Mr. Medvedev, the former president of the Russian Federation, outlines a roadmap to ending Ukraine conflict. We're going to move to the next article, which is Maria Zakharova telling us that actually France, who just greenlit Ukrainian strikes deep inside Russia, will make sure that Ukraine will be finished. So France greenlit, said, okay, you can use our Scalp/Storm Shadow missiles against Russian territory, therefore we get involved as well. So my French nation, those guys, how do you call them, Mbappe and all those French nation, you're going to go to war. The Russians will queue up. You'll see. I hope we don't get to that one, but all the indicators tell us that you're going to be. All right, let's move on. Start from the very beginning and discuss all these topics. The new voice of Ukraine. This is from 3 hours ago, today on the 24th of November 2024. Russia's war in Ukraine poses long-term threat to Europe, German Defense Minister Pistorius says. So this imbecile is trying to conflate the interest of Ukraine with the interest of Europe. including obviously Germany. That's not what it is. That's not true. The interest of Ukraine or the interest of Europe overall does not align with the interest of Ukraine, and that's it. If Ukraine falls, then the Russians are going to come for our throat. That's not what it is. But he puts them together, and then the media operatives will sell that statement as being true to the population so they can support the future policies and decisions these guys, elected officials, will implement and will come up with. Like, for instance, sanction themselves, or maybe the Taurus missiles. Remember, this Pistorius, from the very beginning when he was appointed, he wanted Taurus missiles, the German missiles, long-range missiles, to be given to Ukraine. Therefore, they want to join the fray, and I suspect they will eventually. Scholz somehow stepped on the brake real hard. But how does this how do these guys make this happen? Which is selling an idea, selling a policy implemented by this garbage with half-truth and selective evidence to support their whatever policy. And remember, please pay attention to this. Whenever you read someone, how should I put it, exposing something or making a point, and okay, this is my thesis. Look for how much that person, or in this case the media, left out in order to make that point. And the arguments that the entity used to make the point, look if they're valid. I noticed for a long time that these guys make their points like this. Russia is bad. And when they say that, or Putin poisons his adversaries. When they say that, they take half-truths and things that are not proven yet. Like, for instance, remember when they said that those two guys were a father and a daughter, I think, in London, they were poisoned with Novichok obviously by the Russians. The British court, which I have trust zero in, they said that most likely, or very likely, highly likely, it was the Russians. They did not determine it was the Russians. So that's a half-truth. Now, these people, the operatives, take that as a yes, it is. These guys were poisoned by the Russians, not likely. Now, it's like I would tell you, you likely killed that person. How would you feel about that? You would say, fuck off. So the same here. They use this kind of likely, could, might, possible, and you forget about that these words were included in, the investigations, the reports, that most likely or likely. And they use these half-truths to bring them together as evidence, as statements. The Russians poisoned those guys, not likely, which is different, right? Definitely different. The outcome is different. And they use all these half-truths as statements, and we have 10 evidence, 10 examples. But if you go one by one, these examples don't stand. You disagree with all of them, because they're all unproven 100%, or, beyond a reasonable doubt. That means off. So these guys, Russia's war in Ukraine poses a long-term threat to Europe. Indeed it does. You know why? Because when the Russians will do what they're going to do in Ukraine, you really going to be threatened by the United States of America. Why? You're going to be in the front line. So these guys are gone. You're going to be stepping up. Who's going to be? The Eastern Europe, and then the Central Europe, and then when it gets to the Western Europe, they will stop the war. Why? These guys are children. These guys here, they are spoiled brats. That's what they are. And spoiled brats, narcissistic people, when you touch them a little bit, it's like you kill them. So when you touch their interest a little bit, they will stop the war. So if you touch the banking system, international banking system, which is the foundation nowadays of our economies, if you stop the energy system, if you stop the military-industrial complex, if you touch it a little bit, touch its interest, they're going to stop the war. They're going to stop. Why? Because they're infantiles. All right, or infantile. Let's go to the next one. Next topic. This comes from the New Voice of Ukraine. This is our Mr. Borrell, that I don't like, but nevertheless, he's a Spanish politician. He is going to lose his job. I predict that. European countries must comply with ICC arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant, says Borrell. Okay, that's how you go to grass. You put to grass. EU countries are obligated to enforce International Criminal Court arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell told Reuters, the states that signed the Rome Convention are obligated to implement the decision of the court. It's not optional. No, my boy. No, this is what's going to happen. As I said, it's Germany who said that he has a special obligation towards Israel. Well, you don't have. Let's start with everyone. The German nation has no obligation. Some people did some bad deeds towards some others. They were punished. Some of them were not punished. If you didn't do anything, you personally did not do anything, you're not responsible for anything. You're not responsible. Unless we go to collective punishment, which is in the Old Testament. You know Old Testament? The Torah. Okay. All right. So if you go to that, it's collective punishment. That's not our Greco-Roman law. It is their law that's imposed on us because we are Judeo-Christian civilization, supposedly. Let me play some Paganini. Right? Fuck off again. So collective punishment, or again in the Torah, you can punish someone or someone's family to the 7th generation. That's not in our Greco-Roman civilization. It's in someone else's, whatever they have over there. 7th generation. That means if your father committed a crime, everybody to the 7th generation that follows your father will be guilty of the crime your father did. How do you like that law? And maybe we can stone them to death. How about that one? We're going to implement that with our Judeo-Christian values. All right. Now, so there's not going to do anything about it. Germany is not guilty of anything towards those guys, including the German nation. But who's in control of Germany? Who's going to poison the German mind for the past 80 years? Their own people, I guess. So, Germany will not comply. I guarantee you that. First, Netanyahu is not going to fly to Germany unless he wants to take a shit on everybody. And he'll say, I'm going to go over there, fuck you all. If he wants to do that, he will go to Germany. Germany will not arrest you. I will, you know where it's going down there? Might chop that off if Netanyahu will be arrested if he steps foot in Germany. I will do that, and it's not going to happen. You know that. Orban said that he invited Netanyahu. Orban is in the European Union. What do they try to do? I think they just try to destabilize the European Union. Why? Because the European Union is not a union. It's not. It's going to be disintegrated unless it's controlled fully by the United States of America. The European Union will be disintegrated. And it is controlled by the United States of America, so that will stay together. So Borrell will get out. Germany will gladly receive their boss in Berlin or wherever they're going to be choosing to land. Hungary will do what they do best, look for their own interest. And Netanyahu is not going to show up. He's, how old is he? 3,000 years old already? So Netanyahu will not show up. That's the first one. That's why these guys are allowing. But the Germans will not. Borrell is going to go out. Why? He plays with the eye of Sauron. Remember who that is? Who's going to send their, how do you call those, not minions, orcs to get him. And Borrell is going to go. He's going to decide to quit. Or we're going to find out that he had some sexual harassment in the past or something like that. I'm going to make a video on this one because it's very curious, but that some people, when they start touching certain interest, we find out that they did something like, I don't know, they committed a very, very sexually, crime. Interesting. And I have a few names for you. Now it's Kanye West, we got Andrew Tate, and we got Trump, we got many others. Whenever we found out, man, Matt Gaetz, they did something in the past. Only these guys. Somehow we find out. I'm going to make that video after this probably. So let's see who Mr. Graham, US Senator, works for. According to Sputnik, and it is from 9 hours ago today on the 24th of November. Senator Graham threatens allies with sanctions if they assist ICC in arresting Netanyahu. I thought that the law is the law. No, we don't like that. This guy, remember, this guy was voted in office multiple times by American people. So my question is to those American people, do you agree with that? Now, if you agree with that, remember that would mean, right, that our allies are not our allies if we're going to punish them like that. And remember, the allies signed some documents. They're legally bound to arrest this guy according to their, unless they're going to get out of it. So basically he said, you guys break the law, being part of the ICC court, your membership, or we're going to hurt you. Does that sound like a friend to you? And for whom? for another leader of another country. All right, you connect the dots, my friends. I think it's plain who this guy works for. U.S. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has threatened U.S. allies with sanctions if they try to help the International Criminal Court. They are legally bound to to comply. Arrest Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And I'm quoting, to any ally, any, Canada, Britain, France, Germany, if you try to help the ICC, we're United States, because he's talking for all of us, we are going to sanction you. You got it? And he says, when asked about the nature of such sanctions, Graham doubled down on his threats, saying the U.S. should crush the economies of countries that support the ICC efforts. Remember, when this happened with Putin being issued an arrest warrant by the same court, what did we say? Oy vey, that's great. So, when I talk about Al Capone, which is the United States of America, and Al Capone's plantation, which is about 40 countries on this planet, and the rest of 153 are free, and they're going around Russia, China, India, now India, Brazil, you will understand why. That's not an alliance here. We're not allies. We own these guys. That's how it is. So when here we spoke with the allies, it's not, and this is not a volunteer or mutual agreement. No, we took over you. If this guy says that he's going to destroy their economies, that means they're going to be starving. Genocide? If you dare to implement something that you legally sign as a country for a foreign leader, remember, Graham is not Jewish. Graham doesn't live in Israel. He's not a member of the Knesset. Nothing with that. He's a member of the U.S. Senator, a different country than Israel, mind you. Why is he so uptight about that one? Is he personal friends? He's got money from something like lobby? What's going on? All of the above? Now that is your senator. So that's why when these guys are blaming us, by extrapolation, when the Iranians, North Koreans or something say death to this and death to that, and they burn flags and all that, is because of people like that. But those people were elected. And elected over and over again. The same baboon, Graham, he said on 2 or 3 occasions, at least 2 occasions, that we should take Putin out. That means that is an incitement to violence, to assassination, to killing. Anything happened to him? No. And he's going to get again elected by the same population. Why? Because as I said, we as human race, we are only one step. We can go back at any moment, and history shows us. One step to go back as the cavemen, as primitive garbage. And you and I, we're 2 steps. Only 2 steps we are. They are 1 step only. It's like very close over there to go back. People like this guy is supposed to be a sophisticated guy. So he's going to crush the economies of the allies? That means starvation for children. How about that? And he's a senator. He's a sophisticated guy who voted in the office. This is the democracy that we're talking about. With an imbecile electorate, you get imbeciles, criminals. Let's move on. All right, and the same guy tells us the truth. The freedom and democracy in Ukraine. Russia Today. Ukraine can make America rich, Trump ally. The country, Ukraine, has rare earth minerals worth trillions, and it's ready to make a deal with the U.S. That means I'm going to give you this. What did I tell you about the pimp's bazaar? This is the term that I coined, the pimp's bazaar, or the bazaar of the pimps. The bazaar is the world. It's a meeting between leaders. The leaders of our countries are the pimps. And guess who is the lady of the night? The pimps are selling. We, our nations, our countries are sold in the bazaar, international foreign affairs, by these pimps. They sell one another to what? To interest. The customers are the interest. The financial, industrial, and so on interest. The banks and all. So these leaders that are somehow elected by us, not with their help, they're over there in a bazaar, and they sell us to the interests over there. Those are the customers. We are on the table of the bazaar. Okay, so this guy is a clear example of a bazaar when he says we're going to make a deal with those guys, going to take their resources, and we're going to hit the Russians. It's a bazaar. And you say, well, he's not a leader. He's a lawmaker. You know what, a lawmaker? So this lawmaker a minute ago said if those guys comply with the law, International Criminal Court, that they are signatories of, that we're going to hurt them. And he's a lawmaker. So how can this person still be over there? Anybody's going to sue him, get him? In a real society, he wouldn't be there. He would be probably a dog catcher, I don't know, in a village in Montana. That's what he would be. And let's see what this guy says, right? Because he's got a number for all these things. But at least he says it. But to say it, that means you either know that you're certain on your position, desperate maybe, so it's two extremes, or you just, sold 100%. The Republican senator from South Carolina told Fox News that Ukraine conflict is ultimately about money. Thank you very much. An extract of the interview was published on the senator's YouTube channel Wednesday, and I'm quoting, "You know that the richest country in all of Europe for rare earth minerals is Ukraine," he said, estimated the worth of $2 to $7 trillion. Graham added that Ukraine is ready to, and I'm going to do a deal with us. Yeah, but not Russia. So it's in our interest to make sure that Russia doesn't take over the place. We can make money and have an economic relationship with Ukraine. It would be very beneficial to us with peace. Donald Trump is going to do a deal to get our money back. Well, why did you invest it? To enrich ourselves with rare earth materials. A good deal for Ukraine and us. You got that? This is a statement. This is, I quoted a guy. And let's move on to see what Medvedev thinks, how the peace could be achieved. Medvedev outlines a road trip to ending Ukraine conflict. NATO should understand it is directly at war with Russia, he says. And he says, the NATO member states have essentially got fully engaged in this conflict. They are at war with the Russian Federation. Everyone is currently stirring up the war hysteria, primarily with NATO, the US and other states, primarily within NATO, the US and other states should think about it. It says here, asked to elaborate on the potential use of nuclear weapons by Russia, he described it as a realistic possibility. But it says Moscow, Mule, would very much like to avoid that option. There are no madmen in Russian leadership. I told you that. And he says here, if NATO merely stops fanning the flames of war in Ukraine, this conflict can be ended with no expenses for humanity, no new expenses at least. So that means give them weapons, do what you do best. You are at war with us, we might use nuclear weapons. Clear possibility. We don't want to, but we might. So you know where it's going? The problem is, remember what I said at the beginning of this video, these guys think that they will not be hurt, only we will be. Not they. They think the second they get a little pinch on the little, stop the war, let's talk with Putin. All right, next one. As I said in previous videos, France will allow what the other guys did, which is France wants to finish off Ukraine, says Maria Zakharova. Why? Maria Zakharova has slammed Paris for greenlighting Ukrainian strikes into international recognized Russian territory. Right here, France greenlights Ukrainian strikes deep inside Russia. Paris placed no red lines of its support to Kiev. Did you hear this? That means they will go. No red lines, that means we can use nuclear weapons. There's no red lines. As far as I remember in the second or third grade with the diagram, remember? With the diagrams, it means no red lines, that means zero. Some red lines, some, depending on the problem. No red lines. That means no red lines, you can use whatever you want, including military operations, troops over there, whatever, nuclear weapons you got, that's no red lines. So, okay, says Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot, okay, he says, what does it mean? I can claim that Paris is ready for a nuclear war with Russia if the customers want the pimp to have the lady of the night do. Right? Remember, the pimp is doing, okay, I give you this lady of the night. She's going to do everything, this, how much money you give me. Okay, to swallow is this much. Dollars to take it in her butt is going to be this one. To take it in her butt is going to be this one. So that's how they... Fuck. All right, my friends, here it is. So, Paris has no red lines. They can nuke Russia. Good job. I hope Mbappe and the kind will go over there as French nation legionnaires. Stay strong, Stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.